When someone has a medical emergency and they call 911, we don't have a doctor present. It's us. So we have all of our standard operating procedures, but at the end of the day, you never know what's going to come your way. So you have to be prepared from all facets when you're in the back of that truck.
Our next guest, Sam Tejada, has a fascinating background, which includes being a firefighter for 12 years. Experiences that Sam had in the fire department led to extreme disillusionment with our modern healthcare system and pushed him into a whole new life.
I'm over here trying to save people's lives, and I'm just over here, I'm looking like crap. And then that's where I said, you know what, I got to make a shift.
Hi, my name is Chris Burris. I'm a longevity expert and the chief scientist at a lab focused on a longevity molecule. My primary focus is to help people live longer and better lives with science. Make sure to subscribe and share so you and your friends can live longer and better. Well, actually, so you and your friends can live beyond the norms.
Hi, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Beyond the Norms Health and Longevity Podcast. Everyone respects them. Their revealing calendars raise money and blood pressures across the country. At some point, most boys wanted to become them or at least drive their trucks. I am talking about firefighters, and our next guest, Sam Tejada, has a fascinating background, which includes being a firefighter for 12 years. Experiences that Sam had in the fire department led to extreme disillusionment with our modern healthcare system and pushed him into a whole new life with the same core values of firefighters across the country to serve the community and save lives. Sam is now the CEO and founder of Liquivida, the author of the book How to Win in Modern Wellness, a health and wellness influencer with 250,000 followers on Instagram, 1.3 million likes on TikTok, and the host of the popular podcast, A Healthy Point of View. He actually recently had me on that, so that was a great experience. And he was recently named chairman of the American Ivy Association in Leadership Advisory Board. If you want to take one thing away from Sam's resume, he is making it happen. His mission is to help the world be a healthier place by bringing preventative wellness services to the masses. Hopefully, with this interview, I can help him with that mission and steer you in the right direction when it comes to your preventative wellness. Sam, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here, Chris. Thank you.
All right. So before we jump into your area of expertise, I always like to go further back, like much further back. What was it like growing up, little Sammy? Where did you grow up? What were your parents like? If there was one event or someone you could pinpoint as the reason you would ultimately become first a firefighter and then an author and a health influencer, in fact, a leading CEO in the health space, what or who would that be?
I love that, Chris. And it's actually today's Thursday, man. So we call that Throwback Thursday, right? So let's throw it back. You know, I was born in Dominican Republic, in the 80s, 87 to be exact. So I'm revealing my age here. So I was born in the Dominican Republic. We migrated here. I'm the youngest out of 4 kids. My parents decided to come here to the United States to give us a better life, right? That American dream. So I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in the inner city part of Milwaukee. And, we were Dominicans that came here with pretty much nothing. And it was one of those things where, we grew up in a very low income neighborhood. My mom used to cut napkins in half to try to save money. There's a lot of those different type of things that I grew up around. And, the way I grew up, I started really realizing that a lot of the things that I was eating or even doing were not the healthiest things. But as a young age, man, I was very passionate. The one thing that I knew well in advance that I really wanted to do was help people in the time of need. My favorite TV show was Rescue 911. So I used to always love watching Rescue 911. And I initially wanted to be an ER doctor, but then when I found out how many years you got to go to school for, I was like, yeah, that ain't going to happen. So senior year in high school, my parents decided to relocate business. My father and mother, they're both architects. And a lot of the baby boomers were moving down to Florida. And that was just a great opportunity to, bring business here with all the development and stuff that was happening. So senior year was a hard shift, being a senior in high school. You got all your friends up there in Milwaukee. And, but it was probably one of the best decisions my parents could make for myself, because I was really not hanging out with the right group of kids. And when I came down to Florida, it just allowed me to focus on what my true passion was since I was a kid, which was helping people's lives, right? Up north of Milwaukee, I used to actually work as a lifeguard for the indoor schools. It was for the indoor pools inside of the Milwaukee public school system. And I also worked for the YMCA. So when I moved down to Florida, I was able to transfer as a lifeguard to one of the local YMCAs here in Boca Raton. So I started doing that. And I had a lot of stage fright, man, when I was in high school. And I told myself, I said, man, I just want to be better at communicating with people, right? To be able to just like grow. And when I was a lifeguard, I used to see these other lifeguards that were swim instructors. And I told myself, I said, you know what? I think I could really kind of break that shell a bit if I just become a swim instructor, teach the kids, which should be easy, and then figure out how to get to the parents. And one thing that I found out was like when you start teaching kids swimming lessons, the parents know nothing about swimming. So they just listen to whatever you got to say, even if you're not even saying anything correctly, right? So that really got me into that rhythm of just being, more of a natural of talking to people and teaching and things like that. And then I really started thinking, I was like, well, I'm not going to become an ER doc. And I got approached actually by one of the parents that was a firefighter paramedic here in South Florida. And he was telling me about here in South Florida how everyone's duly trained. They're a paramedic and a firefighter. Because up north, it was separate. EMS was on one side, fire was on the other side. And then I started figuring out, like, man, they got a pension, they got good benefits, the salary down here is great. I said, you know what? That's what I want to do. So I did the accelerated program after I got out of high school. I already knew what I wanted to do. And I went into EMT school, then paramedic school and fire academy, got it all done in about a year and a half. And I was one of the youngest guys that got hired for the fire department here in South Florida. I got hired at 20. So imagine that I'm going to the union meetings. I can't even have a beer with the guys because I'm so young. So I started working for the fire department. And that's really my journey from, obviously fast tracked in this conversation here, but that's my journey from when I came from Dominican Republic all the way to where I'm at now, South Florida.
Man, that's what a great story. So your firefighter and paramedic training, EMT training, right? Together, turns out you can do those both together in Florida. What does that medical training look like? Like what pieces of that training are you carrying forward into Liquivida?
So, that training is no different than like a nurse, what type of training they go through. You go through biology, physiology, anatomy. You're going through different chapters of cardiology. You learn how to read not just a regular 3-lead EKG. You learn how to read a 12-lead EKG. Pharmacology is another one. So you're learning a lot of things about indications, contraindications. I mean, you go through the whole thing, right? At the end of the day, when someone has a medical emergency and they call 911, we don't have a doctor present. It's us. So we have all of our standard operating procedures, but at the end of the day, you never know what's going to come your way. So you have to be prepared from all facets when you're in the back of that truck. So, we're given all kinds of different medications. We're dealing with traumatic patients. Sometimes you got to decompress the chest because, there's air inside of the chest pleural space. So, for us, it's there's a lot, that I got to do surgical procedures out in the field. So you learn quite a bit when you go through paramedic school, which I've taken a lot of that information and applied it to what we're doing here today, specifically the IV therapy world.
Awesome. So, one of the questions that I want to ask is when you started becoming a firefighter, right? So you go through your training, you're actually in the fire station, and you've already seems to be ahead of what you're about to share, I think. What's the health look like there, right? So all these people are trained in EMT ostensibly, and what does their health regime look like? How healthy are these firefighters that you're working with?
So, it was a mix. A lot of the younger guys were in pretty good shape. They were pretty healthy. But early on, when I started at the fire department...
That's the calendar guys, right? All the calendar guys.
Right. But in all reality, Chris, man, a lot of the old timers, they were stuck in that old mindset, that old mentality. And I mean, the stuff that they were eating, a lot of fried food, beer bellies out, their gut just like straight up out. And, I actually got a hard time from some of the older guys when I would actually, because, we have a whole thing at the fire department where it's like everybody eats together. And my first year in the fire department, when you're on your probationary year, you got to be on your best behavior. So the first year I was eating with the guys without a doubt. And I was 21 years old and I was the heaviest I've ever been. And I said, something ain't right. I'm over here trying to save people's lives. And I'm just over here, I'm looking like crap. And then that's where I said, you know what? I got to make a shift. And I told myself, I says, let me set a goal. And my goal was I wanted to compete in bodybuilding, do one of these NPC shows. And one of the other guys at the fire department, he promised me that he would train me at the gym, Mauricio, I'll give him credit. And Mauricio Gonzalez, he would take me out to Planet Fitness and we'd be there at early, like 5:30 in the morning before we had to go to the fire department. And he was putting me through all the trainings that he would do. And this guy, I mean, when I first met him and I started working at the fire department, he was like 47 years old. And he was just like a sculpture, man, chisel. So I was like, whatever this guy's doing at 47 and I'm only 21, I want to look like him, at 21. So, I made that promise to myself that I was going to do it, set the goals. And that's what I did. I actually competed in bodybuilding. I did 3 shows. One was a nationally qualifying show, and I got qualified to do nationals. I didn't do the nationals because I told myself, I says, you know what? I did it. I went on stage 3 different times, got my 3 different trophies. But it was an experience, and it helped me get my health back on track.
That's really cool and awesome. What a great, it probably has an impact on you to this day that this kind of older guy was in such good shape, because we just have this, the general community has this belief, like you're just, when you hit 47, when you hit 50, like it's all downhill and there's no rebound. And it's just so much not the case. And I'm sure that's what you're doing at Liquivida.
Well,
now.
Chris, let me tell you this, man, because I'm going to touch up on what you just said. Just the other day, I'm in the bathroom, brushing my teeth without a shirt. And I'm looking at myself and I'm like, man, I look good, and I'm chiseled right now. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm 38, I'm close to pushing 40, right? And I remember at the fire department in my early 20s, when I'm doing the calendar and everything else, a lot of these old timers, what they would end up telling me is, oh, just wait until you hit 30 or 40, you're going to look like me and this, that. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I wonder if that's actually going to be the case. Now I'm there. And I'm looking at myself, I said, man, these guys just had it completely wrong. It's because they were lazy. They didn't care about their health. They didn't put in the work. And that's why they looked like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that mindset, right? I at one point, I think it was probably 2 years ago, my mom was like, why are you like training? And by the way, I'm not training insane. I'm not training for a bodybuilding competition, but I am training and focused on nutrition and all that good stuff. And I was like, because at this point in my life, I played semi-professional soccer, but I never got to the point where I had a 6-pack. There's no reason just because I'm 55, about to turn 56, that I can't have a 6-pack. Like there's nothing that should hold you back. So the mindset is one of the big things. And, my mom's generation didn't really have that mindset that it was even possible. As a firefighter, you had this experience that totally disillusioned you as it relates to kind of the healthcare system. And you shared it with me after we recorded the podcast there in Miami. I'd love for you to share that with your audience, this kind of downhill, you were like watching a train wreck. Please share that.
Yeah, you start working for the fire department, most guys, is because they're passionate about what they do, right? They really want to help people in that time of need. And, throughout the years, I just started really realizing that I became a product to the broken medical system. So what does that mean? So in the fire department, about 10% of the actual 911 calls were those real saves, right? You got to extricate someone out of a vehicle. You got to run into a burning building, pull them out. But 90% of the calls were these medical emergencies that you're taking them to the hospital consistently. And what I mean by that, right, is, when you work for a municipality, people get to know you. And the same way people get to know you that live inside of that municipality, you get to know them, right? So you get to know them as they start calling 911. Even if it's not your shift, you debrief with the other firefighters as you get off shift. So hey, they ran a call at this person's house again. And you get to understand like how many 911 calls are happening out of that residence. And what ends up happening is, you get that first 911 call for some kind of medical emergency. It could be a cardiovascular issue or whatever it is. You take them to where the so-called experts are at, the hospital, right? And you expect them to get better, right? That's what society kind of puts in place, is you go to the hospital to get better. And what ends up happening is you get called out to that address again about 6 months down the line. And then all of a sudden it goes from once every 6 months to once every other month. Then you're getting called out, these 911 calls, once every single month, then once every other week, then every single week, then every other day. And you actually become part of this journey of seeing this person, their health, their wellness circle down the drain until the time where the family members call in 911 because a person's in cardiac arrest. And this is not one person, two people, three people. I'm talking about throughout 12 years, I've saw hundreds, if not thousands of people go through this broken medical system. And I just knew over and over and over that if people actually were educated and took more of that proactive, preventative approach to their health and wellness versus depending on this little pill that doesn't even focus on the root cause, all it does is stabilize some of the symptoms, that a lot of these people that I was taking to the hospital, they would actually still be around. So, you know, in the fire department, we work 24 hours on, we're off for 48 hours. So most firefighters have some kind of part-time gig on their days off to supplement their income. So what I did about 6 years in, I started working with a company called Cenegenics. So Cenegenics, they're one of the pioneers in the functional medicine space where, you know, they really cater to some of the most wealthiest people on this globe. And what I did with this company, Cenegenics, I was their specialized blood test guy. So what I would do, I'd drive to the patient's homes and I would do all of the specialized blood work, you know, genetic testing, micronutrients deficiency testing, hormones, all of that stuff. And then I also worked very closely with their chief medical officer, who was my mentor, Dr. Robert Willix. He was a former heart surgeon who got sick and tired of seeing people on the operating table. And he decided, you know what, I want to prevent people from going on the operating table. And he ended up, after he left heart surgery, he went to Peru and studied with the natives to become a shaman. So you got this heart surgeon who becomes a shaman, who really understands natural healing. And he gets picked up by Cenegenics. He's also one of the founding partners with Cenegenics. And he becomes their chief medical officer. He's based here out of Boca Raton. And I'm working very closely with Dr. Willix. So I started doing a lot of his other specialized blood tests. I was doing the glucagon stimulation test, which is to basically diagnose people who are growth hormone deficient. So we were having patients flying from all over the world, very affluent patients that would come and do this. And it was about a 6 hour, give or take 6 hour testing process that these people have to go through. And throughout that journey, I just started learning from Dr. Willix. Dr. Willix was world renowned. He would teach for the A4M, the AMMG. You know, he was one of those guys that was just teaching thousands of doctors in functional medicine. And that's where, you know, I was still at the fire department. And as I'm learning about this different type of medicine, I started realizing, I was like, man, I love this job at the fire department, but this is not what God is going to use me for. You know, God put me here to kind of really see what's going on with our medical system, with what's happening in society today. And what I need to do is really jump into the functional medicine side with what I've learned with Dr. Willix and really help people out. And that's where I just committed into starting Liquivida. And Dr. Willix was a partner. Unfortunately, Dr. Willix passed away right before COVID at the age of 80. He actually passed away every morning. Dr. Willix, this is a good story. Every morning before he sees his patients at his office, Dr. Willix meditates. You know, obviously being a shaman, he goes into the spiritual realm of meditation. And it was time for him to see his patient. And his assistant walked into his room and he was sitting in his usual spot to meditate with one of those like sleeping masks that he would typically wear, and he was gone. So, you know, in the world of energy medicine, what that means is that he's crossed over to the other side. And I truly believe that. And I feel like Dr. Willix is still here, seeing everything that's happening and guiding us throughout that process. But yeah, so that kind of was my awakening moment, you know, when I went through all of that and just seeing these people just circle down the drain. I said, this can't be it. You know, I have a bigger purpose. I have a voice that's going to be heard. And we're going to make it happen. And that's what I'm doing today.
That's fantastic. So you're working as a firefighter. You're focusing part-time on your business. Your business is your baby. As you start developing Liquivida, I'm assuming you started focused on IVs, or was it kind of a total health program even from the very beginning?
So, you know, I was involved with Cenegenics. So I did understand everything when it came to comprehensive blood work, hormone optimization, and everything else. But what I did, I started Liquivida by myself. And it was an idea. It actually came from the actual patients that I was seeing from Centogenics. So a lot of these wealthy clients that had homes here in South Florida, they also had homes in California, Colorado, and other places around the world. So I had some of the patients tell me about this IV nutrition that they would get back in their homes in Cali and Colorado. And when I had like the fifth patient tell me about this, because the one thing that it was, they all knew I was a full-time firefighter paramedic, and I did this stuff on my days off. And the technician that would do their IVs back in California or in Colorado, these were actual firefighter paramedics too. So they would always say, Sam, you really got to look into this. I know this firefighter, they're making good money on their days off. And I said, when I had the fifth person tell me that, I said, you know what, let me look into this. And I saw what other people were doing. I said, you know what, I can do that, but I can do it better. So I actually approached a chiropractic doctor who had a beautiful wellness center. It was the name was actually East West Medicine. East West Physicians. So what he did, he took a lot of Eastern and Western medicine and integrated together. So he had pain management. He was doing medical aesthetics. He had acupuncture. He did hydroclonic therapy. It was a beautiful facility. So in that facility, he had this area in the back that was for physical training, for his chiropractic side, but he didn't have a physical therapist. So this area was just collecting dust for quite a while. So I told him, I went in there and I gave him a business proposition. I says, hey, Doc, I've known you for a while as my chiropractor, this, that, and, I always see that nothing's really happening in this area you got out in the back. How about this? How about if I help you move that equipment and we bring this new service of IV therapy? I invest a few dollars to create the beautiful setting of it. And I run it on my days off. I come here and take care of the patients. All you have to do is provide medical director, location, all the utilities. And I'll give you 20% of the revenues that come in. For him, it was a no-brainer. He says, all right, you're going to do all the work, you're going to invest all the money, and I get 20%. So that's how Liquivida came to life.
Man, that's what a great story. Congratulations on it. How many locations do you currently have?
So we've sold over 40. About half are open. The other ones are in different stages of development. And, they're opening periodically. We got a few more opening up. We have Houston opening up soon. Yeah, that's a few months out. New Jersey. Yeah.
So when people come to Liquivida now, right? So it starts as IV, but you're already kind of doing some more of this holistic functional medicine. What does it look like today? So somebody comes and visits Liquivida. Does everyone go through the same path, or do they kind of mostly go through the same path? What does that look like?
So we try to get them to go through that initial path, right? So we can really understand the patient and get that good bird's eye view of what's happening with their health and wellness. But it really depends what people are coming in for, because we do offer a lot of services. Now, one thing that we have at Liquivida, we put our patients through what's called the Vida journey. So the Vida journey consists of 5 different divisions of Liquivida. And ultimately, the patient that actually goes through the whole Vida journey are the ones that are going to have the full optimal health, right? So the Vida journey consists of our wellness side, which includes the comprehensive blood work, a lot of the diagnostics, the DEXA scan that we do, VO2 max, RMR, all of those different testing. The wellness side also includes like hormone optimization, doing peptide therapies for performance, things of that nature. Then we have our medical weight loss division, which is a division of its own. We utilize different peptides and nutrition, exercise. We create those different plans on our weight loss division. Then we have our medical aesthetics division, which we utilize different neurotoxins, fillers. We use PRP. We're doing facials, peels, all of those different things, including body contouring as well too. Then we have our regenerative medicine side, where the regenerative medicine, we're using stem cell derived products, we're using certain peptides, we're using other type of supplementation to basically regenerate tissue and also for anti-aging purposes as well. And then our last division is our sexual health division for both males and females, where we have different technologies like the low frequency shockwave therapy machine. We have other technologies that we use as well too for the females for vaginal rejuvenation. And then we also do the P shots and the O shots, and utilizing that with not just PRP, but also exosomes. So, and then other peptides that we use as well too for sexual health. So our ultimate goal is to really put people through all of those 5 divisions so we can fully optimize their health, make them feel good, look good, and have great sex.
That's so it is absolutely comprehensive. It just makes me wonder. So for those people who do come in, and what are the 2 or 3 of the biggest draws at this point? And you mentioned Botox, maybe that's one of them already.
Yeah, on the aesthetic side, the fillers and Botox is pretty big. The IV hydration, it's people are looking for that, to feel good, boost up their immune system, and then weight loss, man. Everybody wants to lose weight. There's 2 big things that just in general are huge markets. It's energy and weight loss. People are always feeling fatigue. And this is why when you go to a gas station, you have all these different energy drinks, right? And then weight loss. You always see all of these different commercials for weight loss pills and infomercials for this. So people are always looking for those 2 things. So those are definitely big drivers for us, the energy and weight loss side.
Okay, that makes sense, right? Like everybody, I think I've been forever looking to lose 5 pounds, so weight loss has been on the top of my mind, or a part of how I'm approaching things from the beginning.
Hey, super quick break from the podcast. Hopefully you're loving it. This is a way you can support the podcast and take advantage of a great offer. We're offering 50% off of one of our MCT bottles. MCT is an amazing oil. Add the ESS 60 molecule to it. It's even more amazing. All you got to do is leave a review on iTunes, send us a notification that you've left that review. We'll get you a coupon code that'll get you 50% off of our MCT oil and free shipping. Back to the podcast.
All right, very cool. All right, here we go. Wrap up questions. Sam, what's new in your industry that you're excited about?
EBO2, man, being able to detoxify the body from all these different toxins. That is something that we're heavily looking into and implementing it through some of our locations.
Yeah, detoxification is so important. All right, Sam, what is your favorite health-related book and why? And you can select your own. Like that's acceptable.
No, the one that really triggered, my true passion is the last book that Dr. Willicks wrote, which was The Rejuvenation Solution. So the Rejuvenation Solution really goes into epigenetics. It goes into peptide therapies. It talks about nutrition, certain foods that you got to stay away from, the 5 foods that I stay away from personally. So yeah, the Rejuvenation Solution would be it.
Excellent. Thank you. Sam, what was your first biohack and why do you still do it? Or maybe why did you stop doing it?
My first biohack has been nutrition. Making sure I'm eating the right foods, supplementation of different nutrients. And that's something that I haven't stopped. That's something that I will continue until the day that I die. And, for me, that's extremely important because your body runs on nutrition, right? That's the fuel for your body. There's over, 35 different nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and amino acids for your body to function. So nutrition.
Nutrition. Love it. Sam, what is your favorite nutritional hack or focus, and why is that your favorite?
So, favorite nutritional hack is eliminating 5 things out of your actual diet: rice, potatoes, bread, pasta, and alcohol. So I eliminate those. I do have substitutes for them, but you have to get rid of the ones that we've always been so used to for so many years. Those 5 things cause so much inflammation. So get rid of those 5.
How do you feel about sweet potatoes versus potatoes?
Love it.
Yeah, that's one of the alternatives. Excellent. Yeah. Thank you. Sam, what supplements do you take every single day?
Ooh, that's a long list. But one that I take is definitely my Vital C. That's
thank
the one.
You. Thank you.
Yeah. And I do take a nasal spray that's called Synapsins that has NR, which is a precursor to NAD, helps opens up the pathways. It also has the methylated B12. I do take NAD. I also do a few different peptides. Tesamorelin is one of them. And then I take my different multivitamins. And then also I take a stem cell releasing product called Stem Regen. So those are the ones that I take. And then Novos. Novos is also a great product. They have the NMN product. And then they also have one that's great for all of your different organ functions as well, too.
Excellent. We got through the list. Sam, what is your favorite longevity and health piece of equipment and why?
So for me, it's more of the diagnostic tools, right? I love the DEXA scan and also the VO2 max to really see how your body's performing. So I would say those would be my favorite. If I had to go with one that actually gives you some kind of biohack result, I would say the Pulse PEMF.
Sam, what is your favorite movement or exercise hack and why?
So I actually switch from working out certain body parts per day, and I do full body every day. I move every single part of my body every single day. And then also manual therapy. I get stretched out once or twice a week for a full hour to make sure I have good mobility. So stretching and full body workouts, that's my biohack for movement.
Do they do any deep tissue as they're stretching you out?
No, I don't do deep tissue, but one technology that's utilized, it's called Avasia, and it utilizes different current frequency to help, reset some of those pathways of the nerves. So it helps if you got any kind of back pain, any kind of other pain throughout the body, especially if you travel a lot. The Avasia machine is really forward thinking, and Dr. Davis is the one who actually kind of introduced me to that technology.
Very cool. Sam, are there any hacks that you think are absolutely crazy or at least need more research?
Ooh, yeah. Listen, man, there's one, and I interviewed someone on the podcast where she drinks her moon blood, basically her period blood that has all these different growth factors. And I've heard of, women taking their period blood and doing facials with it, almost like the PRP, because it does have certain growth factors. And then I also have seen some of these doctors talk about it online about drinking their urine because it resets their microbiome. And for me, I'm a little bit in between. That's not one that I've tried. And Chris, I don't know. I'll maybe let you try first and then you let me know.
I want a little bit more data. Like this can't be like a maybe situation. It needs to be an absolutely positive
right.
benefit for sure.
I want a lot of data.
Sam, what do you wish you knew or adopted about health and longevity sooner?
Nutrition. Growing up, coming from a third world country, you think you're eating healthy, and a lot of the things that we're eating is just not. We're eating fried food that's fried in seed oils, and it's just if I knew that early on. But I can't sit here and complain about it. Unfortunately, my parents didn't know any different. But now it's almost, this gives me the opportunity to break that generational curse, nutritional curse, if you will. And but if I knew sooner, I think I would be able to live to 200 instead of 150.
I love it. All right, here we got fast responses. Myth, must, or maybe. Lots of protein.
Myth.
Animal protein is better.
Myth.
Cold plunge.
Must.
Must. Sauna.
Oh, that's a must.
Red light therapy.
Must.
Methylene blue.
Maybe.
Maybe. Intermittent fasting.
Must.
PEMF.
Must.
Peptides.
Must.
Stem cells.
Must.
Extended fasting 24 plus hours.
Maybe.
Maybe. I love it. Sam, let's come up with a Live Beyond the Norms challenge. What are one or two things you would challenge the Live Beyond the Norms audience to do this week?
Well, the first thing that I would challenge people to do, if you're not moving your body, start moving your body. And part of that, I don't use the word exercise. Well, the reason why I say move your body, if you like to garden, go out and garden consistently for 20 to 30 minutes. Just do it. Right? That Nike says it all the time. Just do it. Get out there, move your body, and you'll start seeing how things will just start changing. And it's not just about the physique, but you'll start noticing that you just feel better, more energetic, mental focus, clarity. Everything just starts to fall into place.
Sam, if you could have a magic wand and Robert F. Kennedy's position, what would you change?
It's part of what they're working on is really I would change the course of medicine on how primary care focuses on treating patients. We have to remove ourselves from this pharmaceutical disease-focused type of treatment and really take more of that proactive preventative approach and getting people educated. That would be my ultimate goal. And that's something that I'm working on. But if I had that magic wand, man, it'd be a lot easier than doing everything that I do today.
one location at a time.
Right.
That's excellent. Do you have a target age that you want to live to?
So, as long as I have a good quality of life, I'll live until whenever my time comes. But if I were to pick an age, I'd say 150 would be good. I think that's realistic.
I like 150. And how long do you think humans can live?
I watch a lot of stuff, man. The Live to 100, the blue zones and all that stuff. I think humans could probably live up to 200.
Okay, 200. I like that. And what are 2 to 3 protocols, habits, mindsets, let's call them shortcuts, because everybody likes shortcuts, to longevity and a long health span that you would share?
Well, know what you're putting in your mouth, right? Stay away from a lot of this toxic food that's out there. You got to move your body, extremely important. Consistent movement for 20 to 30 minutes a day. To me, it's extremely important. And then make sure you're taking some good supplements, man, like this one here. This is one that I take all the time. And, Chris, this is not a promotional thing. I actually take this.
Well, I'm going to join you right now, too.
That's my Vital C. And I love this thing, man. It just tastes so good. The olive oil, I got the MCT oil one, but I haven't tried that one just yet. I love my olive oil one.
Thank you very much for that. So I've got know what you're eating and say no. I actually like that kind of phrase. Move your body 20 to 30 minutes a day and good supplementation. Can you think of 1 to 2 things that people get absolutely wrong regarding longevity and a long health span?
People always want that magic pill or that quick little bullet to lose weight or optimize their health. It doesn't exist, right? You got to put in the work. You got to put in the work. You got to track your data. You have to be able to sleep. So if you think that it's going to just happen overnight or you're going to take a pill to do it, you're completely wrong. That's a myth. So I would say that is the biggest one that people have to understand. You have to be committed and you have to put in the work.
Ironically, given my earlier question, there are no shortcuts.
No. None.
All right, Sam, how can people contact you?
So my email is pretty straightforward, sam@liquivida.com. But easy to find me on social media. Instagram is Sammy, SAMMY _Tejada, TEJADA. I handle my social media platform myself, so I see all of the things that come in through the inbox. If you want to learn more about me, you can just Google me, Sam Tejada, and you'll see everything that pops up.
Sam, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure, man.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Live Beyond the Norms podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow. Also, make sure not to be that guy, the guy sharing this podcast with people who are not interested in living beyond the norms. If you would like to learn more about the ESS60 molecule, the molecule responsible for the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history, a full 90% extension of life, visit myvitalc.com. That's myvitalc as in carbon.com.